Welcome to The Clean Slate with your hosts, Daniel Garza and Carson Phillips, providing you with movie news, reviews, and more. Sit back, relax, and don't forget to go to the concessions to get your popcorn and drinks. For your entertainment, this is The Clean Slate Podcast.
Welcome back to The Clean Slate Podcast. I'm Carson Phillips. That's Daniel Garza.
What up?
You know what it is. 31 Nights of Halloween, baby.
You
What?
know what it is.
You know what it is.
All right, guys. So today we got another great episode for you. If you have not yet seen all of our episodes, go back and check them out. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. Here we go. In a Violent
And
Nature.
comment.
Yes, thank you. In a Violent Nature, when a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods that entombs the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 70-year-old crime, his body is resurrected, becomes hell-bent on retrieving it. So this is pretty much just
Wow.
like John Wick.
Tree of Life.
Oh, that was good. He just took your necklace, now you're just killing everybody.
Oh, okay. I was to say, like, visually, it's like Tree of Life, but then, like, Jason Voorhees in the background.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can get that. All right, rundown.
Okay, this movie isn't really heavy on plot. Like, all the plot listed in the log line is actually, like, background conversation, like, separate from the main film.
Yeah.
So it's there for you to think about, but I would say just think of it the way you would any other slasher as far as what that plot is, because it's not very coherent.
Yeah.
But essentially we follow this killer, kind of almost more like a supernatural force of nature, essentially, who's walking through the woods, and he's going after his first pendant, and he does some other killings along the way, and they're very creative and gory.
Just for fun.
And the movie's also very pretty, so it's kind of like a walking simulator movie with murder here and there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah.
I guess we do have a final girl, but she doesn't have a personality.
Yeah,
That's not
no.
what she's there for.
There's no arc or anything like that. But this movie is really unique. So getting into our likes, the difference in this movie and a lot of other movies is that you're following the killer, I would say, at least 80-90% of the time. So
Yeah.
it's different than what we've
Except for like
normally...
the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's different than what we normally see. We often get like a story, the reason why they're in the woods, something happens. But this, you're following the story of the killer because, right, he's wronged in a sense, and he's trying to make it right. So that being said,
I was on his side.
Oh, 100%.
Me and Alyssa watched this together, and we were both like, team killer.
Yeah, exactly.
When he has his little Hot Wheel. Poor guy.
I know, and then he crushes it. That was so crazy.
I know. I was like, bro, play with your toy. You're fine.
Anyway, more likes on this movie is that the killer is just his build as like a person is crazy. Like if I saw this guy, I'm like, I'm done. There's actually one moment where there is kind of the moment where the girl is like thinking about jumping off the cliff or just accepting her death, and she accepts her death, but you just see this moment where she's like, okay, just kill me. Because you really can't fight from a guy like this. He's just huge. So that's really cool. I thought the scenery was really awesome. And then something that we also don't talk about a lot is sound effects. The sound effects in this movie is really crazy. Like they focus on a lot of sound effects because there's no real soundtrack to this. Like there is a little bit, but there's not like a theme for the killer. There's not just like a score that plays through it at all.
The score is literally like crickets and bugs.
Yeah, exactly. So
steps.
With that being said, some of it is just like it really has to do with a lot of sound effects, and they do it really well because there's a lot of times I was hearing all this stuff and I was like, oh god, it was
nasty,
a lot.
like that.
So yeah, I like that, and then I like the fact that too, where you still are kind of getting story, but it's almost to the point too of like where you're following a story, but then you're seeing from the point of view where the killer would be during the story. Like, right, they're having these conversations, or people are driving through the woods. Like, I never even thought about it something like that, where like, you know, kids are driving through the woods, but 20, or 200 feet away is a killer that's just like listening to you go, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go this way.
Walking.
Yeah. So those are my likes for this movie, for the most part.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a very interesting experiment in genre horror films, I guess, or just horror films in general. And it's exploring it from a unique angle that I've never seen done before. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like if you're watching Friday the 13th or Halloween, if the camera, instead of following the dumb teens, just left them and followed Jason Voorhees or whoever it is,
which we need that
around
movie.
The woods instead. That's what this movie is,
though,
ultimately. And I think it's kind of fun, and you're obviously trying to put together the plot, and I don't know if it actually is important at all.
I wasn't, honestly. I was just like...
Me and Alyssa tried to figure it out, but, like, that wasn't the point of the movie, basically. And then, so, like, the kills are insane. Like, I've never seen...
crazy.
Like, back to the girl who's about to maybe jump off the cliff.
Hers is the worst.
The yoga girl.
Yeah.
It is... I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah.
In ever. And we've just watched almost 31 horror films. You'd think we would have saw everything, but no, I've never seen... I just don't know why or how someone could think of that in a movie. Pretty crazy. And it didn't feel like we just watched Texas Chainsaw Beginnings, which is gory for gory's sake. Mm-hmm. This didn't feel like that, though. It felt like it was doing something else.
It felt like almost every kill was different. Because, right, you get the one kill of the guy, like... Because sometimes you see the kills in this movie, and then sometimes it's just really left up to your imagination, right? Because he's looking for the pendant. And then he, like... There's one scene, the very first kill, he, like, goes to put his hand out, but then it doesn't show the kill. And then there's the one with the girl on the cliff, and then there's the one with the girl in the lake. You don't see that at all. Yeah, exactly. So some of the I like that because in terms of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they they make it this huge spectacle of like, here's the kill that you've been waiting for. Yeah. But this one's like, who knows? It's really up to the killer to decide, and it's almost like a pathway into his brain of being like, is this one that important for me? If not, then I'll just take him out just for fun.
Yeah. And I think, too, my last here, it kind of is a bit of a spoiler. So if you're interested in this, you know if you're the kind of person that wants to watch a horror film that might not quite be a horror film. But the ending, for me, I think was really interesting. And I don't know if it's effective, but it might have been.
I'm
really
like
kind of
curious
conflicted.
Your thoughts on the ending. So let's talk about our dislikes real quick, and then we'll get into the ending.
Okay, because I want to talk about that, because I had something about it.
Okay, so. I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm really curious to see. So only dislike for me is that because we are truly following the killer, it does feel oddly placed or paced. Is just like, you'll get to a crazy scene, you're like, oh man, it's about to get intense now, like this guy's about to start going crazy. This killer is a lot more just like stoic and just goes for it, no care in the world, right? But then you have like 5-minute scenes of him just walking through the woods, which, mind you, it's peaceful. He's like, he
very
kills
pretty,
someone and then
actually.
just goes for a nice walk. But in terms of, I think because I was expecting some sort of different story, that threw me off just a tad. But that's really my only dislike. And then the last scene, depending on how this next conversation goes, it might be a dislike.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest dislike is ultimately, like I said earlier, this movie is an experiment in genre, and I feel like it works in that regard, but as a overall, like, I'm gonna love this movie, it's super deep and interesting, it's gonna be lower for me there. So it's not quite like a 4.5 star movie out of 5. Sure. It's more of a 3.5 or 3.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
I really, really liked it.
Okay.
But I don't know if it does for me what I want a horror film to do for me. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Exactly.
It's really for people, though, that like love horror films and like deconstructing them, because it's
pretty much what
sort of a deconstruction. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I remembered one thing before we get into this conversation. Last thing is that whole campfire scene where they pretty much give the entire exposition. One, it's horrible whenever a movie does that. Like, it's literally a 3-minute scene of the camera just doing a whole 360 of the group.
And the one dude's insufferable.
Yeah, the one who's telling the story.
For no reason. Yeah. Well, kind of all of them. They all kind of suck. Yeah. I guess that's the point. But
it was just the worst scene of the movie, and I got dizzy watching it. Like, I had to look away because the camera is just slowly, like making full circles around the thing. So really cool, but I was just like, okay, can we? I get it.
It went on too long.
You know what would have been crazy if this movie was a one shot the entire time.
I was thinking that actually. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, it would just be forever.
We should make that.
That'd be crazy.
Like a 20-minute short slasher film that's a one shot.
That would be really cool. Okay.
It's shot in real time.
Now let's get into the last scene. What are your thoughts? That'd be cool. What are your thoughts of the last scene?
So I think I kind of understand what is happening there. So there's the idea where she leaves, right? And she leaves the necklace behind.
Yeah.
He gets the necklace. Technically, that's where his story ends and the movie should end, in theory. But then we follow her for the next 15 minutes trying to escape the woods, getting in this truck, having this really traumatizing conversation about bears and animals and stuff like that. About this bear that went on killing.
Yeah.
And the only thing that stopped it is if its victims were dead. But in this sense, they're basically saying the killer is not an animal like that, actually, because he stopped. But they're trying to trick us into thinking he didn't stop.
Yeah.
And he's going to do it. So it's kind of like what we've come to know and expect from horror films, where he would get the final, like literally the end of Texas.
Yeah.
The final kill in there, and the final, like, look how cool this villain is. Or,
yeah, exactly.
We stopped the villain, we lit him on fire, and then they're going to come back 20 years from now, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like anti that. And I really think that's interesting how they did that, because for me, that's the first time in the movie was that truck ride when she got rescued, that I felt anxious about what was going to happen. The rest of the movie, I'm just kind of with the killer, like, yeah, get him. I'm not anxious because I know what's going to happen. And then when we switched to her, was the only time where I had like a slight amount of horror or like worry for something.
Right, because you don't know where he is. Like, that's the first time we're really not following him, and you're like,
and then when nothing happens, I was like, oh, like.
It's just left
almost like
unknown.
Those kills are like a release of tension usually.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this case, we don't get it. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of clever.
Okay.
It's definitely pretentious for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only part that I didn't like in it is because I see what you're saying in that it's building tension because you don't really know where the killer's at, if it's gonna happen, but like because the lady who picks up to rescue the girl. She's like, I need to stop the bleeding on your leg or you're going to bleed out. And so she's like, no, please just like get me out. They've been driving for like 10, 15 minutes. So killer logic.
It's so long.
And what we've already seen is that this guy is really slow. He's not driving anywhere. So
he's walking normally.
You should, like, at a very slow pace. So you should be fine. But they start to build this tension a little bit to where like they show her face. She's looking out into the woods. And then they show the woods. And I'm sitting there looking at the screen everywhere. I'm like, okay, do I see him? Is he there? And then they just cut to a different like place. And for me, the only thing was like,
and then the necklace is gone. That's what it cuts to.
Right. Yeah.
Where she left the necklace. Yeah.
So, well, it shows like the water first before that.
The gas can. Yeah, like it's missing.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm saying it shows like that little lake, and then it cuts to.
Oh yeah.
So, to me, that's where it was just like. I don't know. It seemed like they tried to do a lot right there, instead of just like cutting to the like gas can or her looking into the woods and then cut to the gas can. I don't know. It just seemed like a weird editing sequence of events, and that's where I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that ending. I wasn't mad, but I wasn't like, oh, that's insane kind of thing.
Oh, I could see some people getting really mad.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. I liked it. I can't really put into words yet why I like that ending, but something about it.
Yeah, I almost wonder if they just cut to the necklace and he's holding it in the middle of the street, and then we don't actually show the kill, but like.
No, I don't think he kills. I think he just went back.
You think
he's done?
He wouldn't.
Yeah, I think he's done. I think he just wanted his necklace.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think overall scare factor. What do you think?
Honestly, I think I could take him.
That's insane. This guy is literally like 5 of your dads put together.
But they shot him. He fell to the ground. I would have just kept shooting him. I would have chopped his head off.
Well, they said it didn't kill him. They said it just slows him down.
If I chopped his head off, it'd slow him way down.
That's true. Yeah.
Then I'd leave. Then I'd go home.
That would have been crazy, though. Like, he just becomes headless.
I'm sure as soon as any of my friends went missing, I'd just leave. I'd go home.
Yeah, and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to help you by calling the cops. Bye. Anyway, guys, so this movie is on AMC Plus and Shudder. So if you want to go check it out, it is on those streaming services. It's a really interesting film. I think scare factor for me, I would say it's about an 8, just because you're just seeing a different side. So to me, I would rate this movie like in completion, probably about a 7.5 out of 10. Like I think it's different enough to where I can give it a couple extra points.
So are we on par then? 3.5 out of 5. You're 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, roughly. I think you're a little bit lower than me.
Okay.
But
that's fair enough.
But so yeah, I really enjoy it. Go check it out for yourself, see if you like it. But until then, guys, we are wrapping up. We only have a couple more days left of 31 Nights of Halloween. So if you haven't yet, go check out our other episodes. Go watch Fog. Go watch Alvin and the Chipmunks. And then don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We are new to YouTube, so we want to keep getting better in our algorithm and getting it out there more. So be sure to do that for us. And then stay tuned for tomorrow for a new episode of 31 Nights of Halloween. Peace.
That's a clean slate.